Hey there everybody, Scorch Artist here, back again with another video. Now this video is going to be a Gantz tribute, some tribute fan art that I did just because Gantz O came out recently. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's incredible. I made the mistake of watching it in English, which the English dub version is pretty whack, but the in Japanese with subtitles it's much better. So I recommend watching that. And just because it came out recently, Gantz for me was it didn't come out recently. I mean, the manga's been around forever, but the movie came out relatively recently. And Gantz for me it was like a turning point in how I thought about manga, because up until mid high school when I discovered it, I kind of pictured manga as more shonen oriented. I mean, I'd read things like Vagabond and Tekkon Kincrete, which are more like adult seinen themed. And that's kind of what I'm into. That's the manga that I like. I'm not too big into shonen types of stories. It just doesn't really resonate with me. And so when I read Gantz, it really opened my eyes to the depth you can go with manga, the type of seriousness and the themes that you could represent that weren't just about going on adventures and more of that younger vibe. So it was really exciting for me to read Gantz, and it's always just going to have a special place in my heart. So yeah, in this video I'm basically going to be describing my process with this and what I've been thinking and my mistakes I've made in terms of this particular piece. And yeah, just kind of a self-critique and kind of a little hangout with you guys. So first thing I noticed here with this is if you look at those lines, see I made diagonal lines, that's smart. I mean, you want to be having, when you're doing this is not a crazy angle, but an angle, any type of looking down or anything like that, you want to imagine your character in some sort of box, Kim Jong-ji says. You want to put your character in a box, or in this case it'd be a rectangular box. And it kind of puts all the perspective together for you, because a box is really easy to imagine and you can break it down into the simple shapes. And the first thing I notice is how you see all those lines are going diagonal, pointing downwards. Those thigh wraps that held the weapons there, my mistake was I didn't also make those diagonal. So the way to improve that would have been to make them wrap around the thigh more, and it would have made it a C shape on both the thigh areas. And that would have made it much more convincing, because right now they're off perspective. They're going straight as if we're looking at him from right behind, but the character is at an angle and we're looking at him kind of from above. So that was my first little error that I picked up on. And you'll see as I go further, see there with the feet too. So had I put the character in a box, the feet would have had a better angle to them as well, because they would have been at a right angle with the body. And here they kind of look like they are, but as I go deeper into the drawing, you'll see how I didn't quite get that one right. The Gantz gun was so fun to draw. I mean, it was super exciting. Here, unfortunately, I drew this whole demon, I recorded it, but as I was saving the files, it just couldn't save. I guess something was corrupted in the files and it just couldn't save the actual demon getting blown in half there. But, I mean, you could see it. I'm inking it, so it doesn't... The fun part's really the inking it. The drawing was... We'll make something else. We'll figure that out. As you can see, this is me here. This is my actual face, pretty much what I look like. I did miss a mole. I have like a little tiny mole on my cheek, and I didn't draw that in, unfortunately. So yeah, inking the gun was also pretty fun too. I switched between a bunch of tools in this. I'm not sure necessarily why. I got some new markers, and I don't know, I feel like I used to be more rigid in how I ink things, in the sense that I would try to stick to one tool. But now I guess I don't know. I feel like I don't feel so resistant towards picking up another tool that I feel can get the job done slightly better, and just using that. So definitely keep a freedom with your tools. Many people like to be rigid about what they use and how they use it, and art is a creative. I'm not saying you have to be creative. Obviously you can be as uncreative as you want if that's just what works for you. Though being dogmatic about things in terms of the tools that you can use, you may severely limit yourself to the possibilities. Just be aware of that. You don't have to be doing it every single day, but sometimes maybe when you go to the art store, pick up a tool you didn't think you would use, or maybe pick up something and just see what it does, because you never know what what you may find useful. You know, maybe try inking something one way and then maybe not inking it that way, maybe using a different tool. So that's the stuff to think about. When I was thinking of gaming, one of the biggest the biggest things for me was trying to keep in mind three-dimensionality. I don't know, three-dimensionality, I guess. Yeah, there we go. When drawing it, I picked it up from a Cycler video. He says when you're drawing things, try to keep in mind of them as an object, not just as lines on a paper, and that will express itself in your artwork in very subtle ways. So like, for example, when I was drawing the fur on his chest or on his groin area, I didn't think of it as just like lines on a page. I tried to feel in my mind the fur, and then through that, subconsciously, it expresses itself in your art without you really realizing it. If I just pictured it as lines, of course I could still draw it by just drawing the lines, but there's little subtle things that are drawn that you may not realize are happening, but when you see the finished product, it's what separates like a nice piece from like a really, really, really nice piece. It's a really subtle differences. And this is something that's very subjective, meaning I'm a very kinesthetic person. I have a video where I talk about your different learning styles. And I think I said I was a visual style learner in that video, but I'm actually very kinesthetic. And it helps me to really feel something in my head. The more I can feel the actual thing in my head, the easier it is to do. And that may not be how you are. You may be a very different type of person, and that might be more difficult for you. But the point, what I'm saying, is you have to know which works for you, know what works for you, know what's easiest for you, and when you do that, you can then adapt your learning to doing it. So when I was skateboarding, I would maybe mess up a trick 50 times, right? Maybe I messed up a trick 50 times, but I landed it once. As soon as I landed it that one time, I was pretty much set. I could just do it over and over and over again, and that's because I'm more kinesthetic. And in doing that, I always kind of could have faith that as soon as I figured it out, I'd have it. And if I didn't know that, I might have been very discouraged to continue doing things. So it's beneficial in more ways than one to understand yourself and your learning styles, and then use that to actually influence your art and how you create art, and how you think about art. Because how you think about art is how you're going to create art. And yeah, it's just as simple as that. So we're nearing the end of the video here. I hope you guys got some value out of this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, as I definitely enjoyed talking about my artwork. And subscribe if you want to see more. I actually am curious, you guys, what videos would you guys like to see on the channel? What are some things that you've been itching to see me do or somebody else do that haven't been done yet? So just comment down below what you think, what you want to see from the channel, any comments about this particular piece or pieces in the future, and we will see you then. So this is Scorch Artist. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys. Peace out.